The link between violent videos and crime.
Research is taking place and it will show.
So-called video nasty.
These films not only affect young people,
My mum don't really let me, but I watch them when she's not in.
but I believe they affect dogs as well.
Knowing that children are likely to see
Caught up in the video nasty, scared.
Wave of moral outrage.
Films without certificates on a list circulated by Scotland Yard
in our societies.
have been seized on video.
Blaming horror movies.
We don't believe in constraining the media.
Ain't that the truth, Maggie? Welcome one and welcome all. Although, in fact, if I just said welcome all, that would have covered just the one. But, as Patrick McGowan said in 1967, you are not a number. You are a free gift with tokens from a packet of Weetabix.
Okay.
But hell, if you're here already, you are either A true fan of the more troublesome end of the early VHS rack, B, you are a Laviniac Productions completist, or just fascinated by any motion picture created by a company named after characters from Virgil's The Aeneid, or C, you mistyped band and were really hoping for memes about Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. Either way, I've got you now. So hello, come on in and welcome to this, episode 10, we made it, of the Video Nasty Review podcast subscribers are calling, you know, that one with the British bloke on it. Sounds like Leslie Phillips being held at gunpoint and being forced to narrate a first draft by James Herbert.
Ding dong, you're not wrong.
Let's get the band back together.
A week-by-week trudge up Satan's rickety ladder to the attic that taste forgot, to rummage through the dusty Christmas decorations of doom, old suitcases of sleaze, to fetch down the 150 or so most disturbing VHS tapes in history, from the time when horror met home rental, and for a few years, in the 70s and 80s, friendly newsagents could provide innocent children with carnage to go with their cola cubes and a slasher with their slushie. Last time we were here, we committed to a deep dive into Sam Peckinpah's controversial countryside caper of anal assault and Chekhov's mantrap, 1971's Straw Dogs.
Okay, you've had your fun. I'll give you one more chance. And if you don't clear out now, there'll be real trouble.
A double episode that I hope you didn't so much enjoy as just grit your teeth and grimly stomach, given its troubling subject matter and production history. Fascinating, yes. Fun.
I will not allow violence against this house.
Well, I don't know. Today is part one of another special double episode, you lucky lot. As it turns out, there's much more to discuss about this messy motion picture, the makers and the midnight movie madness of, I think, our first proper Grindhouse picture in all its forms. So we'll dig in first and take our time with the people and the plot of this piece of nastiness, and part two to follow will be a bit of history of those 42nd Street cinemas that have had a bit of a hipstery resurgence thanks to Tarantino, Rodriguez and the like, and we'll see how this slots in amongst the nasties, the Nazis and the nudies. Thankfully, we leave Straw Dogs' political polarising behind and find ourselves on more solid and predictable ground. As we delve into the Department of Public Prosecution's Section 3 bin bag of corrupting cassettes with another tape from the 1971 crop, a tawdry tale of art, murder and more misbehaving pupils than a Grange-Hill Christmas special. Headless Eyes. Here's the trailer.
He called himself a collector. But what he collected meant someone had to die. A maniac is loose. Obsessed by an uncontrollable urge to kill. He's watching you. But when you see him, it will already be too late. Run and he will catch you. Hide and he will find you. When you give him the eye,
He was very pretty.
you're already dead.
When you give him the eye, you're already dead. Oh, I do foresee a lot of eye puns coming our way, I'm afraid. Blink and you'll miss them, according to my Auntie Iris. Later, of course, we'll talk about the creative origins and such that brought this collection of oddballs and eyeballs to the assorted screens, big and small, the double bills and the drive-ins. But until then, let's look at with what it would be helpful to be pre-armed before we slide the grotty tape from one of those cardboard sleeves with the beat-up furry corners and faded images into our vintage VHS player. Or, I suppose, for you true connoisseurs, maybe even an up-to-date Panasonic DMR EZ49V EBK Super Multi-Format Combi Recorder with Freeview featuring both DVD and VHS playback. Oh yeah, it's out there, £240 on Amazon. Look it up. Headless Eyes was both written and directed, again, now something of a theme with these visionary creations, by a chap called, seriously, Kent Bateman, which, from here in London, is the most American name I could possibly think of. I mean, what, maybe Chip Studebaker or Chuck Magnum might tip it off the top spot, but blimey, Kent Bateman? Now, disappointingly, he's not a newsreader from The Simpsons.
This reporter isn't saying that the burglar is an inhuman monster like the Wolfman, but he very well could be.
But a film director that IMDb tells me had a very short-lived big-screen showbiz career. After this gory 1971 debut, he only helmed 2 more movies before going over into TV production. Now, I don't know if there's such a thing as Nepo daddies, seems somehow backwards, but director Kent Bateman either got a TV gig to keep an eye on his precocious children, or used his role directing TV to get his kids the auditions. Because yes, and we'll get it out of the way now, if the name is familiar, Kent is the dad of stars Jason and Justine Bateman. Performers you all know from Teen Wolf 2 and Horrible Bosses, Jason.
My boss, who we're planning to kill, is dying in front of you and you saved his life?
Well, that sounds bad when you say it like that.
And Michael J. Fox sitcom Family Ties, plus the US remake of Men Behaving Badly, his sister Justine.
She's a super rich chick at school who drives a yellow convertible and looks like a Barbie doll. Alex thinks you might be interested in him.
What are you, the town crier?
Patrick Bateman, of course, the psychopathic Wall Street broker in the family, never gets mentioned. Not clear why, as he makes Daddy Kent look positively restrained.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Bateman's script was produced by a small executive team, which included Pawnee adult film impresario Henry Patchard and 3 of their friends. Now, we'll talk in a while how true this is, or whether Bateman was perhaps less hands-on than his credit would suggest, and that maybe Patchard, aka Ron Sullivan, aka Jackson St. Louis, aka Crystal Blue, took over much of the helming. Either way, credits-wise, data sort of dries up a bit now, and the trail goes cold, as they say on cop shows. Somehow, the otherwise factoid-hungry sticklers at IMDb are happy with that as the detailed list of the entire creative team. Just 6 blokes. I mean, Christ, there were more people in it than made it. Now, I don't know if it was all done just by mates and pulled-in favours and old pals, or if the cast were asked to carry the kit and hold the boom and muck in like it was a project on The Apprentice. But I mean, we have to imagine someone was there to hold the camera and the lights, do the sound recording, do the casting, drive the vans, apply the makeup, maybe dress the sets, make the lunch, likewise design and apply all the special effects and write the contracts, handle the distribution and hell, I don't know, edit the whole thing. Who was doing that? But, I don't know, perhaps not. Maybe this is the cinematic equivalent of strumming a guitar, blowing a harmonica, banging a drum with your elbows and clanging cymbals between your knees. Possibly Kent Bateman is one of the true auteurs and he did the lot. I mean, given I discovered that, for example, the music to Headless Eyes has largely just been lifted wholesale by Bateman from stock copyright-free vinyl LPs, called things like TV Music 1 and TV Music 2, it is possible, yes, that he alone knocked together the entire thing on his kitchen table, with maybe little Jason making the coffee and young Justine trimming the negatives. I mean, for heaven's sake, 16% of the entire cast is his wife. Regarding those in front of the camera, as our anti-hero artist Arthur, Bateman and the producers selected beardy weirdy actor Bo Brundin and asked him to play murderous creative frustration notched up to 11.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's 1 louder, isn't it?
Brundin has a fine, enviable and classy CV designed to impress, if not casting directors, then certainly 9-year-old me, as he can play, there I am, spot me, just there, look, by the truck, during TV episodes of The A-Team, of Wonder Woman and Hawaii Five-0. However, sadly, his most Oscar-worthy turn may be lost forever, and we may never see his finest work as the now notorious, never-seen concentration camp caper The Day the Clown Cried, starring the Let's Put the Jerry into Jerry Lewis.
Why are you not responsible?
Answer me! Because I'm frightened! Do you understand that, Lieutenant? You frighten me!
Has never seen the outside of an editing suite, so Brundin's turn as Ludwig is forever lost. The rest of the cast include bit parters Ramon Gordon, Kelly Schwartz, Laura Betty, and as I say, the director's wife, Ann Wells. Not much more to say before we jump into the sleazy 78-minute sized space where a plot would normally be. The film was released in the US on October the 27th, 1971 with an X certificate by a distributor on Times Square named JER Pictures, who paired it as a double feature with Andy Milligan's 1968 schlocky period inheritance flick, The Ghastly Ones.
A House of Abnormality.
Which will be familiar to those out there who've listened to our episode 2. If you haven't, and you think The Ghastly Ones sounds like something you'd enjoy, it isn't, honestly. Scroll back and find Let's Get the Band Back Together episode 2 for 39 minutes and 50 seconds of exactly why that is. In 1971, those New Yorkers who took one look at this grotty double bill and decided it wasn't worth the babysitting money could have chosen on the marquee instead that week the feet-picking Poughkeepsie police pandemonium of Friedkin's The French Connection.
There's been some talk about what? Shipment coming in this week. Everybody's gonna get well.
I got him on the shuttle at Grand Central.
Starring the best Lex Luthor in the business, Gene Hackman.
Why, it's the most brilliantly diabolical leader of our time, surrounding himself with total nincompoops. I'm back, Mr. Luthor. Yes, I was just talking about you.
Or instead maybe Roger Moore leading a double life with Anton Freshfields Rogers in The Man Who Haunted Himself.
Your name may be Pelham, but I am Harold Pelham of Freeman, Pelham and Dawson. I am.
Then we're left with only one alternative. Pell's guilty.
Oh, by the way, listeners, Roger Moore fans, if you're out there, can get a huge, hilarious kick out of a really splendid episode of the podcast Smirshpod.
One of my favourites, John.
It's a corker, isn't it?
In which comedy legend John Thompson dissects Roger Moore in The Man Who Haunted Himself alongside the hilarious host John Rain. I can thoroughly recommend that episode, and for those who like some filth with their films and some puerile piffery with their popcorn, the entire Smirshpod oeuvre is worth a listen. Do check it out. It's one of the few pods out there, I think, worth a subscription. I hope they won't mind me saying. But, as a man caught fingering a dyke once said, I can't stand around here all day plugging. Let's do it. You know, we're here now after all. So, double lock the front door, turn out the lights, grab a cushion to hide behind, get within a droplet's distance of some op tracks, as we discover what happens when sensitive, artsy types find out they've not been nominated for the Turner Prize on the same day they find out their wives are leaving them. In 1971's tale of crazed creatives on the loose, Headless Eyes. Here we go. And we are in familiar territory as we kick off this ghastly art house overacting student-style piece of 16mm nonsense in the manner that you, me, and everyone would start one of these movies if we had 8 minutes to spare and wanted to sort of just take the piss out of the entire genre, I suppose. Let me explain. Writer-director Bateman comes from the if it ain't broke, don't fix it school of creative decisions. A quick thumb through the Ladybird book of creepy, cheapy filmmaking over breakfast waffles, and he's busy queuing up the first of his selection of shots that couldn't be more hackneyed if it came with an E1 postcode and a complimentary pub full of Trustafarian squatty cunts.
Toby, Rimlicker, how's it fucking collapsing?
So brace yourself if you are cliche-averse or cornophobic, because seen it 100 times before, cookie-cutter, arty shots are the main staple of this 78-minute meal. They're the fat, wheaty, puffy, bland dough onto which the thinnest of creative cheese has been grated. So, yep, Bateman fades in on the traditional camera following feet down a dark street to a doorway, shoes striding, scuffing over that 70s New York pavement we've seen in everything from Taxi Driver and Death Wish to The Warriors and Fame. who might this mysterious man be? Well, he's not a good guy, as director Bateman has chosen to accompany this with track 3 on his Music for TV Volume 1 and chosen track Generic Spy Theme Tune by the Jeff Love Orchestra. Yep, he's a wrong'un. Give Bateman his due here though. No time is being wasted as we follow this stalker, creep, pimpy shoe shuffler down an alleyway and through a grotty apartment door. Onwards, determined to a bedroom. He pushes in and, why, who's this? A young New York broad is on the divan catching 40 winks. No doubt conserving energy for when she appears on tomorrow night's Stars in Their Eyes. And has to say, tonight, Matthew, I'm going to look a bit like Amy Winehouse. Our figure with the footsteps, either a burglar or a cleaner who keeps very peculiar hours, tries to make a silent grab at what looks like heavy jewellery on Winehouse's bedside. But Winehouse is a light sleeper. She's probably just napping, trying to work out if "Why don't you come on over, Singleton" is a silly line in a song she's writing about Blue Peter presenters. So his fumbling, noisy robbery of the gems causes her to stir, to awake. There's gasps, there's screams, struggles, writhing and shoving. He wants the jewellery, she wants him largely to fuck right off. Like all of the production values, the sound recording on set is poor and amateurish, which we'll have to put up with throughout on this cheapy budget. But we can make out some desperation and even motive in the cries of our villain. He needs $60 for rent! $60 for rent! Now this places the movie firmly in its historical early 70s context and earns a place in a future Adam Curtis documentary, as $60 rent in New York didn't get you much back then, and certainly isn't going to get you much today. Without wanting to go all Monty Python Yorkshireman, it wouldn't even get your shoebox in the middle of Tupmore to wear.
Cardboard box? Right. Oh, you were lucky.
Now, some research into this grotty piece of sleaze unearthed some online debate about whether this is a simple desperate robbery, a snatch and grab, or something more sexual and rapey, a snatch and grab. For me, my notes make no mention of thrusty hips or booby mashy drooling, but there is no doubt that the tussle, much like the tongue removal you'll remember by Fuad Ramsey's in Blood Feast, had something of the oddly, erotic isn't the right word, gropey, seedy side. It's a robbery that turns into an attack, that we can say. Does the fight get him all worked up, all panting and opportunistic? I don't think so, but a couple of other podcasts I listened to said otherwise. You know what? Let 'em. Either way, our damsel in distress, not distress, ain't letting the gems go without a fight. Reaching out desperately to her dresser, she tries to grab a sharpened, hook-billed machete, but regrettably it's been left in a shed for Mario Bava to use in the 1971 upcoming Bay of Blood in the next episode. So she lunges instead for the next best thing and grabs up a spoon. Better than nothing, I suppose, however, and in the desperate struggle, she does her best with it and stabs and elbows and, among screams and shadows and hands over faces, sends her assailant spiralling away with gasps and hollers. She appears to have, gouged his eye right out. Or possibly pushed it right in. Either way, he's not going to be able to make out the top line on a wall of a David Clulow's anytime soon.
Well, of all the brads.
And he's away at this, out of the fire escape, down into the smoky siren streets, the echoing loop of "my eye, my eye, my eye," repeated over and over again and again, like it were Pinky Brown's declaration of love.
What you want me to say is I love you. I love you. I love you.
No, Pinky, no, Richard Attenborough, 1948, Brighton Rock. Look it up, you'll thank me for it. And that's how you start a movie. So now we're in, there's no turning back, it's the credits. We get, much like Blood Feast and Bloody Apes, the obligatory horror movie font with the required drippy, squeezy bottle bloody effects to hammer home the mood. As we've said, credits are short and perfunctory, and possibly not even accurate, as we're going to discuss later, but they're out of the way blissfully promptly. So now, let's dig in and get to know our one-eyed burglar better. It's Arthur.
I'm going to take a bath.
I'll alert the media.
Our hero, or our anti-hero, perhaps. It's our leading man, anyway. Now, are we rooting for Arthur at this stage? Do we want to see him finally get his $60? Or do we want him caught by the cops in an elaborate sting operation involving 3 undercover opticians and a branch of Specsavers? So far, not clear yet. But fast forward a few weeks, and we're back with him again, this time on safer, more familiar ground. The soundtrack now is side 2, track 4 on TV Tunes, that's called Jazzy Gamelan Plinky Plonky Doctor Who Weirdness, performed by Laurie Holloway and the Monkhouse Trio. A sound very familiar to disappointed parents of bored 14-year-olds as they watch them tune up before an exhausting concert of contemporary music. Overture for theremin, triangle and empty bean tin. You get the idea. Arthur sits alone, troubled. As I say, picture what would happen if the son of a coupling between Donald Pleasance and Rob Reiner got into Seth Brundle's telepod and didn't realise Victor Spinetti was behind him. We see him more closely now. He's a beatnik type, all New York, Greenwich Village-y art installations. Corduroy jacket, his own studio, he sits brooding in his little pretentious gallery area. The sort of place it wouldn't surprise you to find Diane Keaton and Michael Murphy, commenting that it was all straight out of Diane Arbus but with none of the wit. Now, is writer-director Bateman satirising this sort of hipster? Are we laughing at his daft sculptures, his macabre canvases? It's not clear exactly, but this is our setting. Now, as I say, among the sleazy easels, sleazels? No, it doesn't really work, is Arthur, an artist who's lost an eye. He's monocular, he's cyclopsian. 3D cinema would be wasted on him. He can't wink and look at you at the same time. A monocle would be an ideal Christmas gift for Arthur. Ray-Ban Wayfarers are 50% too unnecessary. We don't know what state mentally he was in before poverty drove him to theft and a woman with a spoon caused him to turn into Dick Fury. Perhaps he was always on the, emotional side. I mean, listeners, some people have said I'm clearly on the spectrum, but I laughably correct them. It's not a spectrum, it's a Commodore 64, so they can go fuck themselves. But what we do know now, as we watch him, is that he's taken the robbery and resultant injury badly. He's lost it. He's gone nuts. Proper psycho batshit bonkers. As they say, bars on the windows, toys in the attic. Now, as I say, we're not sure at this point if he was always a straitjacket mannequin model or if the spoon incident has finally tipped him over, but either way, we watch as he sits in his studio, obsessed and obsessing with his new torment, the only thing that now consumes him. Eyes. Oh yes, eyes, and you know what? More eyes. Beady, wide, glassy or googly, Arthur's not fussed. We pan the camera around his cluttered studio. There are eyes on mobiles, eyes in paintings, eyes done in oil, charcoal, pencil, clay, marble, eyes in little plastic bags in the freezer, staring blank and blind like marbles. Others in Ziploc bags like take-out pickled onions. Some eyes are even frozen in formaldehyde, the sort of YBA trick the art world got all excited about in 1995, causing every student in Britain to try their own Turner Prize rip-off. What was it that Michael Stipe once said? Everybody hurts sometimes. Thanks, Mike. It seems poor Arthur, with one eye gone, is beginning to fixate on the optical. And if he's on medication for this obsession, we can say it's both strong and not being taken. An aside, we should be thankful, I suppose, before we go on, that Amy Winehouse went with the spoon to the eye defence rather than, say, a biro to the testicles. And no, not just to save us from a film called Crotchless Scrotums, because the attack and its resulting theme now lets director Bateman off the leash to bring out all his film school tricks and give us what he clearly wants to give us, which is an artsy 78 minutes of zoomy, dreamy focused swirling eye imagery. There are spheres, there are globes. You turn to look and it's another glob, it's another ball, you name it. Dots, spots, circles, mobiles. Director Bateman proceeds to never miss an opportunity to create some ocular on-screen imagery. It's like he's trying to get an A-level in cinematic symbolism. We'll dissect later, but Jesus, Kent, give over. I mean, I've been an art student. Left school at 16, took a slow train to Watford College of Art and Design every day, just north of London, 5 times a week for 2 years.
Mind the gap.
and I sat about with cartridge paper and fixing spray among the hipsters, the Marxists and the Goths, watching desperate students pour their tortured souls onto paper and clay with ink splats and papier-mâché, all sadly to the 90s soundtrack of Manchester baggy grooves and woozy cod psychedelic smileys. And listeners, make no mistake, this movie belongs exactly in that genre. Don't be thinking of it as a grimy, Tarantino-y piece of New York 42nd Street gritty grindhouse. Just think of it as a homemade half-term project, projected onto a loose sheet hung up in a cold school classroom of a local art school one July, flickering on a noisy projector in an exhibition of B.Tech first diploma work entitled Watching. Kent, you're not Ross Mayer, you're a segment on Look Around You.
Please ensure that you have your copybook at hand, as you'll be asked to take down notes from the screen at various points throughout the programme.
Now, there's an old adage in screenwriting: ask William Goldman, ask Sid Field, ask Robert Town. Hell, ask Nephron, Sorkin or Wilder. You show things in cinema, you don't tell. You show us the character is crazy, you have him do crazy things.
Great shot! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
You show us your characters are in love, you have them do romantic things. Don't just explain these things in voiceover. Well, before we go on, I'm going to warn you, it appears that Kent Bateman skipped that part of the class at UCLA. He was probably dropping Jason and Justine off at Sylvia Young's. As not only does our eye-patch sporting hero sit about for most of the movie playing with detached eyes like he was a snooker referee cleaning the white, he now begins to demonstrate his obsession further with interminable monologue on and on, over and over, a rambling, insane tirade of jarring non-sequiturs, drooling, muttering and twitching as the insane voices in his head argue and clash. In the words of Victoria Wood,
Barbara, you will have to buckle down. I mean, Ophelia's mad scene. That lovely line. There's Rosemary. That's for remembrance. It's no good just bunging a few herbs about and saying, don't mind me, I'm a loony.
Let's put it this way. Anthony Perkins' estate will not be suing for copyright infringement.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Maybe Animal from the Muppets might.
Woman.
But not our Perkins. Right then, back to it. We're very easily distracted today. Focus, people, for heaven's sake. Now, with these messages and motifs relentlessly repeating on and on, our writer-director Kent does now realise if this is going to pass for a movie rather than an art installation, he'd better put in some kind of, plot amongst all the symbolism. So, as Arthur broods in his studio among his pupils, he is interrupted from his insane, artistic, self-persecuted ramblings and regrets, largely we assume about not just getting $60 by taking his Xbox to cash converters, and he's distracted by drunken posh people, post-party, giggling and flirting noisily down on 8th Avenue as they shriek and stumble against the window of his grotty studio. Arthur sneaks downstairs to watch them more closely. They disgust him. They are rich, sozzled, loud and ghastly, which, by coincidence, is also the name of my solicitors. Arthur is not a fan. The upper classes, they wouldn't know about art, about sacrifice, about what it is to be $60 away from destitution, to have to get by on a fridge freezer full of eyeballs and Findus crispy pancakes. This is no idle sneer from Arthur. We're about to find out how little he is a fan of people like this. The nondescript pair of sauced-up socialites head back to their sumptuous New York apartment as they bicker. Coats off, drinks poured. There's a knock on the door. Oh yeah, it's you-know-who. It's Arthur, Patch Adams, our man Squint, One-Eyed Willie, the Blink Panther. Well, for the couple, what a novelty! A smelly, artsy poor person with one eye. Sozzled and condescending, they invite the stranger in, as you do. What could go wrong? Well, as it turns out, this. Out of a neat little suede pouch, ideal for the busy psychopath on the go, Arthur whips out a gleaming blade, and he is on them. As they scream and yelp and put up a drunken fight, Arthur goes heavy with the rage, the fury, and about 6 litres of pillar box red emulsion as he takes them both down. Struggling, fighting, it's all elbows and gritted teeth as the upper classes discover what it's like to be not $60 short of rent, but 100% short of eyeballs. Grabbing up his slippery prizes, Arthur makes a run for it. with another set of orbs for his growing collection of ocular trophies to bob and blob in his freezer compartment. Sweaty and bloodied, Arthur is back on the New York street, bruised, bothered and bewildered. Thankfully, writer Bateman managed to get to page 2 of his Screenwriting for Dummies and now inserts stock character 4, New York hooker with a heart, to come to Arthur's rescue. To be fair though, this isn't going to have anyone checking the VHS box confused that they've rented Pretty Woman. Pretty unpleasant would be more the mark. Nevertheless, she is troubled by this woozy waster out alone on the city streets, and she leads him back home to her pokey apartment for a brandy, a sit down, and, I don't know, a tit wank? It's not clear. But sadly, Arthur's bloodlust is now up. He's too far gone, and despite her care and attention, while she tends to his needs and tries to get him roadworthy to send him on his way, he's overcome once more with his drooling, insatiable lust for eyeballs, cornea, an iris, pupils, tear ducts and nerve endings, and he's all up in her vision with his suede pochette and handy blade again, wrestling her into a bloody bathtub. More screams, more gouging, more elbow action, more relentless scooping, and he's out with another fresh one in a freezer bag. Down the stairs and onto the street before you can say should have gone to Specsavers. But at last we get some context, a little backstory, some answers to the audience's questions. How close to the edge was he already? Did he really go from a spoon in the eye to this overnight for $60? Well, no. Kent Bateman has been teasing us. This terrifying timeline is not as it first appears, and we, the audience, have to sigh as he leans into another of the most hackneyed movie techniques in the business.
Extra, extra, read all about it!
The glaring 500-point newspaper headline. Glimpsing over the shoulders of a reader, we see, "Eye killer slays 14th victim." Blimey, 14th? He did 12 during the credits. Well, why the hell didn't we see that? Talk about cutting out the best bits. Anyway, it's now established Arthur is a serial killing eye traumatizer. He has been spooning and gouging at the upper Midtown area for weeks and has got 14 victims under his belt, or rather in his freezer. Back to his studio now to pop the eyeballs in the fridge next to the Aunt Bessie's Yorkshires. But before he has time to rearrange the magnetic poetry on the fridge door, it's a jingle of the bell and a female visitor to his studio of screamingly symbolic, obvious ocular oddments. Hopefully for her sake, less condescending than that posh couple who suddenly got corrected, as our overlook Grady once said. The audience is tense. Will she end up with her glance on a lance? Her look on a hook? Is her blink gonna end up in the sink? Well, no. Because rather than her baby blues making front page news, the woman visitor gets instead the spitty end of a ranty, self-indulgent, poor me lecture from our Arthur. Which is still a massive fucking drag. And man oh man does Arthur let her have it, right as it were between the eyes. The worst type of precious, self-pitying, whiny, artistic, nobody understands me pleading that usually precedes someone asking to borrow money. This dame, you see, this visitor, is Arthur's ex-wife. Oh, she pleads with him to just get over his eye loss and come back to society. But no, he's too far gone and bellows at her for 5 breast-beating minutes about being misunderstood and such. He doesn't want her money. He's clearly quite well off. He doesn't want her money. He doesn't want her help. He must suffer. He must create. He'll take no charity, no handouts. He's an artist. You'll recall Bob Hoskins trying this gag with a hotel owner in Alan Parker's The Wall in 1982, trying to explain why Bob Geldof has trashed the place and cut his eyebrows off. Meanwhile, art schmart, as Brian Sewell once said, and of course, moida is moida. And the investigation is continuing. TV reporters thrusting microphones on the street and asking vox-popsing New Yorkers about how they feel with this maniac on the streets. Well, sort of asking. The reporters don't seem that interested in the answers, to be honest. But here in Hell's Kitchen, there's no end of tranks, lobos and zipheads, as they say. Prize for anyone who can tell me where that quote's from. Tranks, lobos and zipheads? No, I'll tell you at the end. All chipping in with their opinions and fears of living on these dangerous streets. Now, one can only assume Bateman is improvising and using actual real-life New Yorkers for these scenes, given their stilted delivery and confused appearances, because, blimey, if these are paid actors, he's being overcharged. Oddly, one of them looks very, very much like a young Jeff Goldblum.
Okay, I thought we were going to rehearse or something.
But I can assure you, it's not him. As a huge Jeff Goldblum fan completist,
This is not healthy. No, this is not healthy.
I'd have known if he'd been in this. Goldblum doesn't appear on the silver screen until Michael Winner directs him as Freak-1 in 1974's Death Wish, as you well know. But I digress. 14 victims in, 28 eyeballs on the scorecard.
28.
Arthur must now face facts. He's got to make a move, get out of his apartment, hide out and lay low. It's only a matter of time before the hard-working New York Police Department put together that 14 people have had their eyes cut out and a small gallery uptown is displaying 28 fresh ones in the window. Come on, fellas, put down the Twinkies, let's get some police investigations going. Arthur makes something of a run for it now, being followed, it would seem, just out of shot by a jazz percussion band, all crazy booming timpani and wah-wah Hendrixy Stratocaster action. We catch up with our hero again, now on a dusty, sun-baked New York rooftop. We're not really sure why. Suppose he's staying out of the cops' eye line, I guess. While glancing through tenement windows past those clunky aircon units that people in the UK can't comprehend, Arthur spies a young lady, a blondie model type, all swishy skirts and Farrah Fawcett flicks. He's very taken with her, with her eyes, of which she has two, either side, the standard layout. Creepily, Arthur skulks and follows her to the office of a movie producer, a slow, lengthy sequence, which is both slow and lengthy, painfully so, as Arthur scurries and dodges her in lifts and corridors in what appears to be slow motion. It certainly fucking feels like slow motion, but isn't. At the producer's office, he eavesdrops. His instincts, albeit usually spectacularly wrong on almost all counts, see earlier decisions about the best way to obtain $60 or what to do when faced with Amy Winehouse and a spoon, are spot on this time. She is indeed a model. She is dawdling, waiting for some producer type to get off the phone. She needs work. The producer on the phone is arguing with some unseen writer, possibly Harold Pinter, but more likely Joe Esterhaus, about scripts and whatnot. The woman wants work, she offers her portfolio. The producer waves this away. He's happy just to see her body. Oh yeah, he can get her work. Yeah, it's that sort of studio. One assumes they're not casting Annie. Finally, to a bongo groove out, in case we forgot it was New York in the 70s, she scuttles off to be picked up on the curbside by some pimpy-looking dude in a pimpy-looking dude car. What can Arthur do? Run after the pimpmobile like he was Tom Cruise or a T-1000? Nah, it's never going to work, he's not in shape. So he returns at a yawning real-time length to the building, to the lift, back to the producer's office to find this woman's contact details in a filing cabinet. But fingering the files, so to speak, Arthur is disturbed, or should that be more disturbed, by a frumpy secretary type. You remember the estate agent lady in Ghostbusters?
Sleeping quarters and showers on the next floor, and there's a full kitchen on the top level.
The woman who sells them the firehouse, remember her? Yeah, that type. Arthur, not sure if to try and talk his way out of it, impossible, charm his way out of it, not likely, or strangle his way out of it, wait a second, goes with the latter, because it's that sort of movie. More crazy mental monologues and ramblings as down she goes, eyes bulging. But to stress his mental state, writer Bateman gives him sweaty, gasping apologies to make as he does so. He doesn't want to kill her, squeeze. He's sorry, tighten, but he's going to strangle her anyway, throttle. I'm really sorry, thump. Arthur then cuts her eyes out, for fear that we might have forgotten what this film is about. What is this film about? I can tell you, it's about 80 minutes too fucking long. Still, stay with me, not much more to go, and if it helps, keep repeating to yourself, Richard watches these, so I don't have to, Richard watches these, so I don't have to. We're back home now at his apartment, come studio, come gallery, which actually reminds me, someone once told me they were going to turn their spare room into an office come cinema. I said I didn't object to the office, but I'd not be going anywhere near their come cinema. Over more Ginger Baker snazzy jazziness, he washes the eyes in one of those big Artroom School Belfast sinks. The muttering and mumbling continue to suggest this behaviour is all very much somehow against his will. Torments, possession, inner demons, which are the worst ones. outer demons, you can just cross the streams and aim for the flat top.
Cross the streams.
You're going to endanger us. You're going to endanger our client, the nice lady who paid us in advance before she became a dog.
Inner demons, man, they're a fucker.
Stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker.
Be silent!
Bateman isn't quite going for the split personality setup of something like Psycho, I think.
Parents from my mother, the one she allows I might be capable of doing.
But Arthur is clearly a troubled, tormented fellow, rather than the bloodthirsty relishing of a Lecter or Kruger.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
As we said, the director proceeds to waste valuable film stock, hammering this home relentlessly with much sixth form film student fun, with zooms and swirls and spirals and woozy walking to give us the sense of his fractured mind. But while up to his elbows in fairy liquid and corneas,
that do dishes can feel soft as your face.
Arthur gets his third visitor of the movie, a rat-a-tatting on the door, calling out to him. Unwilling to talk, being busy with J-cloths and jelly, he dismisses her away. But determined, the young visitor leaves a note. She's a keen art student who loves his work. Well, he's no time for that nonsense. He has graves to rob. Yes, graves to rob. Sigh. Is he finally realising that murder is wrong, and if he's compelled to collect eyes, those of the dead would do? Or is it more likely, and some podcasts seem to suggest, that he's left one of his earlier victims in a hurry with a spare and is coming back now for the matching one? Either way, it's off to B&Q for a lot of black plastic liners and a shovel. As Burke and Hare would have told him, waiting till dark may be the smart thing to do when digging up corpses and splintering plywood, but Kent Bateman is a director on a budget, and lighting a night scene, as we've discovered in many movies so far, Blood Feast, Blood Island, is difficult and expensive. So, at this point, we get the nearest thing to suspense, as our hero and his incredibly obvious, noisy, sunlit, mid-afternoon grave digging catches the attention of a dull, off-duty cop. Whoopsie! Gotcha! Ya eyeball-pilfering no-good some bitch! And much gun-waving and arresting and apprehending follows. Well, for about 90 seconds anyway, because our cop, offers a hand to Arthur to help him out of the grave, and Arthur uses this idiot piece of police work to overpower the poor cop and pound him to death with a rock. That's, of course, padded out an extra 4 minutes, so, that'll keep the producers happy too. Back at the studio, he finds the note left by his young female admirer, and she arrives face to face to meet her inspiration. His eye work, she loves it. It's so eye-y, it's so looky, roundy and starey. She wants to learn his techniques. She admires him so. A grumpy loner, Arthur is of course initially unresponsive to this request and tries to limply sell her an eye in a cube. $8. But no, she's persistent. Do we see a crack in his craziness? Is this young, wide-eyed Padawan the woman to change his ways? It seems so, as he agrees to meet her later to talk. And one assumes about art and life and struggle, rather than perhaps the best way to get the lid off a coffin at 2 p.m. And now we get a lovely, almost Efron-like rom-com walk and talk around New York, as the couple meet and wander and discuss art and life. I mean, she's no Meg Ryan, and hell, he's no Billy Crystal. Billy no mates, possibly. And they don't even discuss whether hieroglyphics are an ancient comic strip about a character named Sphinxy. But it sort of captures that 90s feel. It wouldn't be a huge shock to hear Harry Connick Jr. tinkling away on a piano with a jazz standard in the background. And he's right, she looks really good in skirts.
I'll have what she's having.
But among the idle wandering, coffee shopping and browsing, they are getting along. Could this be redemption? Well, not with another 20 minutes to go, no. So, back to the gallery, to his stolen file from the producer's office. Remember that? And the address of that model who captivated him so before she was whisked off by Huggy Bear's cousin.
It's damn right.
With her stolen address, but no Google Maps, Arthur seems to prowl about forever until he finds her home. Up on the roof again, he eavesdrops at the window and overhears her on the phone making plans. Meet the duck at 2 p.m. So now we get the obligatory stalking scene, straight out of Carpenter's Halloween. The model, no one has names in this movie, just model woman. The model is clearly up to something shifty down at the docks, a plot presumably left maybe on the cutting room floor, or in the typewriter, or on the back of a matchbook, or just in Bateman's head, as she takes a nervous, guilty, scuttling, look-over-your-shoulder run down to the seedy New York docks, followed at a maddening snail's pace by our plodding villain. Oh, get a move on, Arthur! They arrive at what appears to be the set of West Side Story. Arthur makes his move. She runs! And there follows a chase through the warehouses and ladders and docks and wharves and New York whatnot. Fearing for her life, although, unless I've missed something, with no idea who this beardy man might be with his eye patch and his safari jacket, our heroine ducks into a meat locker. Arthur follows, and we half expect to catch Rocky Balboa practicing his left jab on a slab of meat that swings on a hook. The chase continues. Tension actually mounts. But from an audience's point of view, it's too little too late. Where the hell was this pacey energy 77 fucking minutes ago? More gamelan music clonks crazily, meat knives are grabbed from workbenches, screams and fallings over. He attacks, she fights, swinging on hooks. The frozen dead cows stare down at him, echoing somehow Norman Bates's parlour once more. Soon, he cries, his art will be shown to the world. Oh, he's finally gone over the edge, wide-eyed. Well, one of them anyway. He stumbles and lurches about the freezer, lost in his madness. They said he could paint again. He plucks a knife from a very neatly laid out selection, like it was a John Lewis wedding list. He takes the blade and, almost sobbing with apology and regret, carves the woman's eyes out, leaving her in a heap, face sploshing with, let's face it, some bright red paint. He backs away, talking to the eyes in a precious, Gollum-y sort of manner, but the door slams. He's locked in the freezer, but I haven't shown my art yet, he pleads. No! And then it's The Shining, 9 years before The Shining. The freezer door is opened hours, maybe days later. The eyes-wide, frozen body of our killer collapses, stiff as a corpse, speckled with ice. Dead. Credits. We breathe out. We check our watch. Really? That all? Eject. Well, what to make of that? Well, we made it through at least. And I counted only 17 feeble eye puns, synonyms and allusions, which showed enormous restraint on my part, I feel. We have lots to unpick here, a film with, for once, some symbolism to go along with the slashing, an example of the visionary auteur, for better or worse, largely worse, a discussion of what makes one director's waiting for a lift an exercise in nail-biting suspense, and another director's effort merely tedious plodding and padding. We should look too at the resurgence of the grotty, gritty Grindhouse style in 2007, why it came back and why it frankly outstayed its welcome. Plus, a look behind the warehouse doors of Wizard Pictures and how they handled Headless Eyes when they popped out and rolled around the floor a decade later on VHS. So, join me next time for part 2 of this offal-filled optical oddity when we focus back on Headless Eyes and you finally figured out who are the Tranks, Lobos and Zipheads. If you want a clue, it was a film 10 years ago, 36 years ago. See you there.